Hey y'all, and welcome back to Lantern Creek Farm. I'm going to take you through our garden, our 2024 garden. Now it's still a work in progress because we're still adding things here and there, but I want to show you all what the garden looks like. And guess what, guys? This is the first time I've even been up to the garden in 2 days. I didn't come up here yesterday, didn't even get to the farm until late in the evening, didn't come out here until after dark. It was around 11 o'clock when I finally set eyes on the farm yesterday. And then today, this is the first time I'm looking at it through this camera right now, backwards. So let's check out the views. I'll show you everything that we got. We'll talk about things along the way. So y'all join me. Welcome to our not so great tater patch. So this is our tater patch here. Unfortunately, we started our potato patch around Good Friday. And then shortly after that, weeks after that, actually, we had a frost, a heavy frost for 3 days in a row. And that caused some damage to our potatoes. Along with that, it killed a lot of our pumpkins. We're down to just 4 pumpkins after, I don't know how many I planted, a few, 6 or 8, I can't remember. We're down to 4 pumpkins. And our potato patch is just not fantastic. As you can see here, we've got some bare spots that are just missing potatoes that never came up. The rows didn't finish out. Really, the only 2 decent rows are right here. The rest of them, out of the 4, the 2 on this end just aren't great. That could have been the frost. That could have been the seed potatoes that we used. It could have been how they're planted. I don't know. Typically, we have a good potato year, but this year's not our year, and that happens. So I'm going to flip the camera around here. And as you can notice here, there is no potatoes on this end. Everything was planted from this way up. Looks like somebody planted a tomato plant right there. I don't know where that came from. But it looks like somebody planted a tomato plant there. We have a watermelon here, and a watermelon here, and a watermelon here. We planted these the other day. These are the Crimson Sweet watermelons. And as we go through the tour, you'll be able to see the other watermelons that we have as well. So you can kind of see through the potato patch here. I have no clue where that tomato came from. It makes me laugh because I don't know. I don't know what kind of tomato that is. It needs staked up though. I didn't even know it was here. So I need to stake that up. You can look through here though. These are the potatoes. I don't know what kind were planted. And so I can't tell you what kind they are, but they're coming up on blooms. If you notice, they're kind of laying a little bit more flat than they should. And that's because we have had some weather come up here recently. Heavy winds that kind of blew them a little bit. At the end of this potato patch here, things just weren't doing as good. And so I cleared this area and added a few things. One of them was this tomato and this tomato. Both of those tomatoes are Amish paste tomatoes. And then down here, I planted some summer squash. So we have a summer squash here, and we have one here, and there's some seed coming up there. Oh, we got 2. We've got 2 summer squash there, and the rest of them is the potatoes. We have 4 rows of potatoes. 1, 2, 3, 4. With as bad as the potatoes have been doing, we're obviously not going to be able to sustain ourselves the entire winter on these potatoes. We've never been able to manage to get that far with the potatoes. Maybe the more we work, the more sustainable we can come with each crop. And I say that because we are working to sustainability. We're not going to get there all of a sudden. And I say that to encourage you because a lot of times, here's my stand, a lot of times people want to get too excited and they want to try to be sustainable within one season. And guys, you're not going to be able to do that. I've got many videos talking about that, so I will try to link those. But I just want to show you this garden tour to encourage you. If your garden doesn't look like mine, that's okay. If your garden looks better than mine, that's okay. If your garden looks worse than mine, that's okay. Take that, learn from it, and you can slowly increase and do better and better and better each year. Next up, we've got some cabbage. So as you can see here, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6. Yep, we've got 6 cabbages here. As you can tell, they have been dusted because we're having some issues with some pests. I recommend using diatomaceous earth if you're having issues. Also, it helps, and we didn't do it this year, when you are planting plants, to go ahead and put diatomaceous earth in the ground with them. That keeps the pests kind of at bay a little bit. And then we just continue to dust the plants as the season goes on. Diatomaceous earth is a natural product. It is not chemicals, and so it works really well and is more natural. Next, we have our lettuce. Definitely need to get us some. And we had, let me see, we had 2 stalks here. As you can see, we've done eat on those. And then we have the 4 more, well, it's multiple heads. There's 1 head here, 2 heads here, 2 heads here, and 1 there. They were started from seed. On the end of that, we've got our onion. Don't they look beautiful just sticking out of the ground? We're going to have to pull some up though, because we got some going to seed. So that's ready to pull up. We'll probably harvest them in the next couple days. I want to come out here and start getting some things that are ready to go. Standing next to our cucumber trellis. This is a 16-foot hog panel or cattle panel, whatever you want to call it. Now, I want to go ahead and throw this out here. If you can't afford a type of trellis like this, then there's plenty of other ways to trellis your cucumbers. This year we're using hog panels. Last year we used some kind of rusty old wire fencing that was just around the farm. And so I understand that not everybody can have this. And guess what? Yeah, we've got a hog panel that are quite expensive. And I want to go out on a limb and tell you all too that we only paid $15 for them. We caught them on sale at our Lowe's, our local hardware store. They were $15, and we bought quite a few of them. We bought what we could afford at the time. We bought quite a few of them, and we've used them in the garden this year. But that's something that, you know, we had to buy at an affordable price. Typically in our area, they run about $45 to $50. And we can't afford that on a normal everyday basis to buy multiple for the garden. It would be over, let me see, 1, there's 3 going down that way, 3 going down that way, that's 6, 7. So that's over a couple $100 at $50 a piece to buy hog panels or cattle panels. So if you can't afford that, go ahead and do what you can afford. Like I said, guys, a few minutes ago, if your garden doesn't look like my garden, that's okay. Build things up, acquire things as time goes on. But we're going to go ahead and show you our cucumber trellis and our things on the cucumbers. And as I'm talking about that, guys, we've got these held up by sticks. This is a metal pole here, so we're nothing fancy here. And so, but I did want to tell you all that. That way, if you know you see it and you're like, oh well, I can't do that. Well, just use what you can work with. Whether it be old wire or catching cattle panels on sale at a price that you can afford. All right, so we have got our cucumbers kind of smushed in a spot here, which is funny because they're vining. So on the one side, we've got our lettuce and our onion. Obviously, the onion is going to be pulled up more quickly than anything. And of course, the lettuce is going to be cut back through time, be eaten on and things like that. And then on the other side, we've got our corn. And we don't care if the cucumbers, you know, kind of vine into the bottom of the corn. This is our experimental side of the corn. And we'll talk about that on another video. So here is our cucumbers that we have started from seed in the ground. These are our double yield cucumbers, and they go up to a certain point here. After that, I put a different variety that, as you can see, is a big space here, and they're not really coming up that well. We've got a few coming up here and there, but nothing really major. So I will be, once we get down here, I'll show you, I will be transplanting some of the extra ones up here that came in real well and bring them down here to the empty spots. But as you can see while looking at the cucumbers, you can notice fairly quickly that we have cucumbers at different levels. I purchased these cucumbers the other day. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. 6, sorry. There's 6 of them. There's 3 of the Dashner, and then there is 3 of the bush pickles. And I'm going to talk to you about having different sizes of cucumbers growing on your vines or on your trellises at the same time. Like I mentioned just a second ago when I was showing you all the cucumbers, and I showed you the different sizes or the different levels of cucumbers that we have growing on the trellis. And I want to mention why. So the ones that are planted is kind of by accident, by seed, that some are higher and some are lower and some are, not as big as the other ones or anything like that. That's just based upon how the seeds wanted to grow. But if you notice, I showed you 6 cucumbers that are already larger than the ones that I planted. And I want to tell you why we're doing that. So if you are wanting to, let's say, pickle cucumbers or use them for any kind of preserving recipe, canning, or otherwise, you're going to want to succession plant your cucumbers. It's very important because you want to have a large amount of cucumbers. And the only way to do that is to succession plant or to have a large area in which you can have a large amount of cucumbers. As you can tell by looking at our farm and our measly little 16-foot trellis that our cucumbers are on, we're not going to be able to fill the entire area up with cucumbers. And so how we rectify that is by succession planting. If you're not familiar with succession planting, it's planting something at different times. That way you can have a bigger yield or a bigger crop of that certain thing. So our goal this year, over the last couple years, we've been trying to figure out a way that we can a large amount of pickles towards the end of the season. Now, if you're not familiar with cucumbers, I'm sorry, there is a bug or something around my nose and it is itching. If you're not familiar with cucumbers, they're usually a one and done. They usually flower, they come up, they flower, they give you their fruit, and then they're done. The vine dies back. And that's just typical of the plant. We did plant the double yield at the very end, as I showed you. And supposedly they're supposed to yield more than one crop. But the seed guide didn't guarantee that. So we're going to try them out and see how they yield. If they don't, like I said, we're going to succession plant anyways. We've got extra seed of them and we'll put them in the ground. But like I showed you, we've got different varieties at different sizes getting ready to start. So just on this one trellis, we have the Dashner, which is larger right now. We have the pickling bush pickle cucumber, which is large. On this end, we have a no-name cucumber that we grew last year that we absolutely fell in love with and have no clue what the name of it is. And then on the end, we have double yield and we have straight 8. So we have a large variety of cucumbers just on one single trellis, and all of them are at a different level in growth, which is going to allow us to have a greater variety. And on top of having a greater variety, we're going to be able to have a greater yield of the crop since we've done it like this. I'm trying to get both of the corn areas in the shot. Not going to be able to get both of them completely in the shot, but if you notice back here, we have a corn patch here and we have a corn patch here. The one next to me is 3 rows. They're all the same variety, which is, I believe, Silver Queen. I might be telling you wrong, but we did plant 2 varieties. It was the Silver Queen and the Peaches and Cream. If I'm not mistaken, now I might be telling you wrong. It might be the Peaches and Cream. I can't even remember, guys. But we planted 3 rows of whichever variety, Silver Queen or Peaches and Cream. And then the other one, we planted 2 of the Silver Queen and 2 of the Peaches and Cream. Now, this area right here is more of an experimental area. If you've watched any of our other videos, you know that we have a tendency to plant seeds thick and then pull later. The reason for that is because we have issues with things getting in our garden, such as our free-range chickens, crows, rabbits, all kinds of stuff. We have deer in the area. I don't know if they've ever gotten in our garden, but it's a big possibility that they have. And so because of that, we tend to have to fight different animals for our crop. And so we plant things thick and then pull up later. Well, our corn patch back here, we thinned everything down, but through here we didn't. Now it isn't as planted as thick as it was back that way, but they are a little bit closer here. Also, we grew corn both here in this area and there in that area. And that area never did any good. But we're working on something, like I said. We're experimenting and doing things just a little bit different this year to see if we can see the difference between this area and that area. So it's going to be an experiment, and I'll try to keep you all updated on it. But I wanted to go ahead and show you the beautiful rows of corn. So let's take you off the stand and I'll show you. So I talked to the husband, and I was correct the first time. It is Silver Queen. But here's our 3 rows of Silver Queen in this area. Beautiful, beautiful. Everything is doing well. Now let's walk up here and I'll show you the 4 rows of corn this way. They're doing really well. Just beautiful. Guys, we are standing in the small patch of area that we have our, what are those called? Raised beds. I couldn't think of them. Raised beds. We also have some things growing down here. So let me see if I can tilt you down here. We have some cucumber or some cantaloupe growing here. So there's 3 cantaloupe there. Along beside that is some onion, and that is some greens. I think they're collard greens. Over next to that in the straw, you can see back here and up here is my father-in-law's potato patch. He's growing potato patch. He is growing 2 potato patches in straw. So let's move on to the raised beds. These are our raised beds. These are what we primarily use for berries, these first 2. All 3 of them were built and constructed last spring. We had soil brought in and filled the raised beds. And then along with that, we planted some different berries. Now there was blueberries in this first bed along with raspberries. Those are the thornless kind of raspberries. And then there was a blueberry growing here. Unfortunately, it got, I think it's called rust mold or something like that on it, a red mold. We had to rip up the plant. But as you can see, we're getting some blooms, and so I'll take you off the stand and y'all can get a little closer and take a look at the blooms. All right, so here is the berry blooms. I just knocked that one off. But as you can see, if we get in here a little bit deeper, we've got some berries forming. And they're thornless. Like I said, it's a very large, wide area. It's a good size bush. I think it's 2 or 3 bushes in one there. There's another one. Along with that is our strawberry patch. The strawberries are done for the season. This is just a one and done season of a strawberry. We did not realize that when they were purchased, that they were just they weren't like a ever bearing, that they were just a short season. But we got enough out of them, and they were delicious. And into there is this old weedy weedy bed of garlic, and I believe the garlic is ready to go. I've never grown garlic before, and so I really need to look into when that needs pulled up, but I think that they are ready. I'm not quite sure. The weeds are taking them over otherwise, though. All of that is weeds inside there, so shows I've not been on my game. But the rest of the garden looks good. There's weeds right here. That's awful. All right. I'm trying to make up for it by the looks of this. This needs weeded and cleaned out. On the other side of this weedy garlic bread. I said garlic bread. On this other side of this garlic bed, garlic bed, are radishes. They're coming up. Garlic bread. I'm still laughing. The other day I planted some kohlrabi here. I don't know if it's coming up or not. I've never planted it, so we'll have to see what it looks like. If it comes up through the weeds. Before I embarrass myself any further, let's go on to the other side. Back to around the corn, and I'll show you what we planted along the other side of the corn here. You can't see it right off, but I'm going to point to it down here. I don't know if you can see these little green plants or not, but guess what that is? I planted okra right here, and as you can tell, I love it. So we planted 3 different varieties. One of them was the Clemson okra. The next variety was the red burgundy okra, and the next variety is a no-name okra. Somebody bought the seed and did not write the name on it. So, anyways, we got our okra. I don't know how many different plants are there. Some came up, some did not come up as well. Mostly the red burgundy did not come up as well. So, we will see once they get a little bit bigger. As you all can tell, they're pretty tiny. I'm going to take you off the stand though, and I'll show you what they look like. They're coming up, guys. This is where things start going south after this part. That's the red burgundy, and there's just a few plants that came up. We're a little farther away here, but out there you can't even see what's going on. The sun's in the background and it's kind of blurring it out. But on the end of these 2 trellises here, I planted watermelon. Like I said, this is the first time I've looked at the watermelon. Since I planted it, I haven't been up to the garden except just right now in 2 days. And they're needing watered. I can tell by looking at them, they're needing watered. The variety of watermelon is unknown. It was something Black Mountain or something. All right, so this guy's embarrassing to show at the moment because, you know, he needs water. But we have this one, and we have that one. All right, guys, so we are standing in front of, or in between 2 of my favorite things to grow in the garden. Well, 2 trellises of my favorite things to grow in the garden, which is pole beans. So if you can't tell by the accent, we are in Appalachia. I'm an Appalachian girl, and because of that, I'm a pole bean girl. And I love pole beans. They're my favorite thing to grow in the garden. We do have bush beans here, and I will show you, but pole beans are definitely my favorite. Nothing to me beats the flavor that any type of pole bean has, but I do have my favorite pole beans. But pole beans just have a greater green bean taste. So if you like green beans, pole beans are going to be the treasure trove when it comes to the wonderful taste of green beans. But we've got a couple different varieties, and so I'll walk through the rows and kind of tell you what varieties we have. Start at the end of the trellis on this side. So I told you guys earlier that we had a couple cattle panels. So we have this one here, that one there, and then at the very end is a half a cattle panel that we were no longer needing for the farm. So we have 2 different varieties growing on this trellis. These are the pink tip half runner bean. This is a different variety that we've never grown before, and supposedly the beans are tipped pink on the end. It looks like we've got some pink flowering coming up there. It's a variety that we've never grew before. I will link the video where I show them, but the bean itself is a really pretty pink color. Up to about over halfway here, somebody has dropped salt. That's odd. Up to about halfway, we grew greasy back beans or greasy beans. These are the white variety that we have. We have 2 different varieties, which is a brown bean and a white bean, and these are the white variety we have. Starting on the other end here, we have 1 cattle panel, 2 cattle panel, 3 cattle panel, 4 cattle panel, and a 5th one down there. And these are our white half runner beans, and it goes from there all the way down to the bottom. And since we're right next to the pole beans here, you'll notice here on the ground we have our bush beans. We have 2 rows of our bush beans that start past where the camera can see, and we have Tenderette and Blue Lake is what we're growing this year. Which one is which I can't remember on either side. I knew when we first did it, but now I don't. But we've got both varieties here. I am not a big bush bean fan, so you ask why I'm growing them. Well, we share this garden with both my father-in-law and mother-in-law, and then we eat it ourselves. And their favorite variety is the bush bean. I also find that bush beans are a lot easier to can than the pole beans. So if you're looking for something that's maybe a little bit easier to can, not as tender, then your bush beans are going to be a little bit better option for that. I find that the pole beans are more tender tasting, and also can get tough more quickly. So I find that the bush beans are a lot easier to. They preserve better when canning. The pole beans are just fine though when canning. It just depends on how you like your bean cooked mostly. But I find that they do hold a little bit better while canning than the pole beans do. All right, as y'all can see, it's getting a little bit darker, so I went ahead and took a water break before I just completely lose the sun or get distracted about something. I went ahead and watered the plants through this row. I planted this row the other day. The video of me planting those will probably come out before this video. And so maybe not, I don't know. It depends on how I edit them. But we'll go ahead and take you down this row and I'll show you what we got. We've got 2 different of yellow squash. This is the straight neck yellow squash, and this is the crookneck yellow squash. Up from here all the way down to the end, we planted only two different varieties in this amount of tomato plants here. So what happened is I was only going to plant a couple of this variety, which is a cherry tomato. They are called Sun Sugar cherry tomatoes. And I wasn't going to plant these 2, but then I realized that I needed to try to fill this row as much as I could, and so I went ahead and planted these random ones on the end. From this one, the Sun Cherry, up to, let me see where it starts, to right here are a Roma tomato. They are called a goat bag tomato, and they are a Roma type. This is a variety that I seen at a local greenhouse, but when I seen them, they were little tiny things, and so I wanted to come back and get them. And so, as you can see, I went back and got them. And then from here up is more of the Sun Sugar. So excluding those tomatoes that I just planted, we have 51 tomatoes in this area here. We've got one more row before we get to the tomatoes, and so let's take you down it. So we're starting at the far end here, and as you can see, we've got 4 plants here that are, 2 of them are just not doing very well. These are our jalapeno peppers, and one right here I replanted. I'm not quite sure if it's a jalapeno, but I've got a good hunch that it is. So for whatever reason, they're just not doing fantastic. This one is in the process of dying here for I don't know what reason. And this one was planted late, and so, it's just smaller. But the previous plant that was here was just cut all the way at the bottom. I don't know if somebody ran over it or a bug or a cutworm or something came in and just chopped it off or what. This is a jalapeno pepper, and as you can tell, it's doing decent, but it has got some bug damage here. So we do probably need to put some diatomaceous earth on that to help that out a bit. This one has also got some bug damage, but like I said, it was later planted. That one is not going to make it. And this one is not looking fantastic, although it does have more starts or little blooms on it than the larger one does. From this spot all the way down, and I am going to walk you down that way, these are a different type of bell peppers. So through here is the Aristotle. And it starts, I'm looking for the tag. I think cannot, I don't see the tag. I think it's the first 8 plants are the Aristotle, and then the rest of them, I believe, are the King Arthur. There might be a different variety there, but I walked up through them and could not find the tag. Everything is doing decent. I'm not that impressed with how the peppers turned out this year. We are seeing some flowering on them though, and some are starting to bud. So today or this year just might not be our pepper year, which is okay because I still have some that are preserved back from last year. Last, but certainly not least in this part of the garden, or in this garden up here, is our tomatoes. These are one of my very top favorite things to grow in the garden because your girl right here loves to can. I love to can. And I love spending the summer just gathering the tomatoes and putting them in a pretty little basket and taking them into the house and washing them and cleaning them and just doing all the things that comes with canning. And so let's talk about our tomatoes. In this section here, not the row I showed you of the tiny tomatoes that we just planted the other day. In this section here, we have 51 tomatoes. We have multiple different varieties. We have 2 rows, these 2 rows here, that are strictly Roma type tomatoes. They're Amish paste specifically, which is super exciting because I've been wanting to get my hands on some Amish paste since I heard about them about 3 years ago. About 3 years ago, you couldn't get your hands on them. People were snatching them up with all the pandemic stuff. And so I couldn't get a hold of them when I first heard about them. And so finally this year we were able to get a hold of some plants, and I'm super excited about them. I'm super excited to see how they grow. We've grown a different type of different variety last year, which was called the Health Kick tomato, and I highly recommend them. And they were wonderful tomatoes. So we'll actually have to see if those meet up to our my expectation of them and how well the Health Kick Roma tomato did last year. First 2 rows, I'm going to talk to you about, excluding the other 2 rows back there. Those are our Roma type tomatoes. These are our sandwich tomatoes. Eating tomatoes is usually what I call them. Plate tomatoes, I've heard them called as well. And they include multiple different varieties. 2 of them that I can think of right off the top of my head is Early Girl and Pineapple. There's, I think, 2 other varieties in here, but for whatever reason, they're completely escaping my mind right now. But we usually grow these just for eating purposes along with canning purposes. Now, me right here, I said I love to grow tomatoes because I love canning, and I love canning tomatoes. Right, so let's start in the Amish paste side, or the Roma end here. As you can tell from the tomatoes, we're actually this is the original one. They were cracking. We were getting a lot of rain, which is causing the things to crack. We've been getting rain almost every single day. And so that's causing the plants obviously to get a lot of rain. We're also getting wind, and so I had to come through here while the ground was wet, as you can see my footprints, and tie these tomatoes up. But we're going to walk through, and I'm just going to show you what they look like. I love seeing this fruit on them. Just beautiful. I just need to pull that one off. Right, so sadly that is the end of the garden tour for this area up here. The things that I didn't show you in this video is we have cucumber and watermelon growing down in our chicken pasture. Along with that, on the other side of our goat pasture that is up here, we have some pumpkin growing there as well. I'm not going to show you them today because they're not in this area. They're in other videos, and I'll try to link them below. But guys, I appreciate y'all watching. I appreciate y'all hanging out. Leave a comment down below and let me know how your garden's going right now. I know that there's people down south of us that have got beautiful gardens, and they're getting fruit off of them and everything. And as you can tell, we're just now starting. This is really just the beginning of the garden for us, and I'm super excited about it. I've noticed the beans are growing up the trellis, and the bush beans are bushing out, and the tomatoes are getting fruit, as you all seen today. And then you go back to the things that are just getting started in the garden, like the tomatoes that we just planted, and the cucumbers that are just coming out of the ground, and the watermelon that we just planted. And so everything is just in a good starting time, and I love it so much. I love just coming out here every day and seeing that it looks like it's grown, just an inch. Everything just looks so green and beautiful. I love it. I'm a garden girl all through and through. I love being out in the garden. I love having my hands in the dirt and working the land and working the dirt. I love coming out here with my little hoe and hoeing the ground and clearing out the weeds. And as you can tell, this garden is not perfect. We've got split tomatoes. We've got things that need watered. We've got things that are starting late, and things that died that we started early. Our potato patch isn't doing well this year, and our peppers aren't doing well this year either so far. So it's just, we're not perfect. This garden isn't perfect, and I love it. I love it. I want this channel to be authentic and real, and so y'all see what you see. You get what you get when you come to this channel. But I want to know about your garden. I want to know how well it's doing. And so y'all leave a comment down below and let me know how it's going so far with your garden year, your 2024 garden year. But I appreciate y'all watching. I appreciate y'all hanging out. Hopefully we can see you next time. God bless y'all. Bye-bye.